Hello, everyone. Welcome to Friday the 13th Growth Intentions Call. Yay! We're going to turn it into Good Luck Friday. Um, Today's topic is the distraction addiction, and kind of keeping in our theme of the last couple months of talking about, being more focused, being more productive, the not to do list we talked about a couple weeks ago. This book is from 2013, and it's actually about how our brains are addicted to being distracted, and that we actually prefer having tons of inputs and all these things coming at us. And let me try the illusion of multitasking, that it actually stimulates dopamine and serotonin in a different way, because it's stimulating. Well, anyway, we'll get into that, but let me share my screen. I'll show you the notes. These are my favorite notes to share. These are from Brian Johnson. He calls them philosopher's notes. You can check out some of his stuff on YouTube. He actually reads these notes for a little TV show on YouTube, and they're all for free at optimize.me. And I love to promote him because, one, he had an awesome business model. When I met him, he was coaching and doing these notes, and his coaching and his membership was $10 a month. And at the time I joined, he had about 5,000 members, and it grew to over 1 million at $10 a month. So you can imagine what he's doing now. He's gone on to a bigger project, but he still does these philosopher's notes on great books, and they're all available for free on his website. So the format is typically he reads the book and digests the 10 big ideas. You can see the big ideas from this book are over here in the left-hand column. Talks about the monkey of your mind, email apnea, technology entanglement, task switching, experiment with 2 lists, and then we'll go on if we make it that far. So one of the things I'd love to ask everyone in the room, we'll talk about this topic first. Meet the monkey, your mind. You know, that undisciplined, jittery little thing in your head that goes everywhere. Do you feel that you have control over where your thoughts go on a moment by moment basis? Or do you feel like it just goes wherever you want? I would love some feedback or insights.
I'm going to say it depends. When I am focused on a task that is a priority, has to get done, I'm all in. When I'm kind of, like, okay, what do I need to do? Trying to figure out what is the priority, it becomes much more challenging.
Agreed. Totally agree.
I made a comment in the chat. If you're finished, Lisa, I don't want to interrupt you.
No.
Okay. All right. And we have our primitive brain and then our now brain, and I have a feeling that after working and reading so much about survival animals in the prey species, which I have, always horses and now alpacas, we have to remember that primitive brain way back in the early days of our evolution, if you believe in evolution, is what kept us was what kept us alive, because we didn't have guns and bows and arrows, and maybe we had a sharp stick and stones to throw, but we had to take in all the data, the smells, the sense, the hearing, the visual, and then be aware of the changes, moment by moment changes, if we're in a situation where we feel that we're being threatened. We can now still feel socially threatened. We can feel emotionally threatened, and we can feel physically threatened. Humans like to think that we are like the absolute predator, but we are not. We are prey in so many ways that are diverse. But I think once we get that sorted out in a situation, then we can focus. But I think that we have to, it helps to know when we're doing that scattered. I call it scattered, but it isn't necessarily so much scattered. It's just part of our biology and our evolution and what's still there. That's my thought, my knee-jerk thought on it right now, anyway.
Yeah, I agree, Lisa, totally. I love what you said about, you know, the primitive brain really is all just wired for protection. It was always on alert. It was always, you know, is there a lion over here? Is it going to be freezing cold tonight? You know, all these things to worry about that kept, you know, that part of our mind totally overactivated. And I guess that's why they call it the monkey mind, because it's literally delivering constant, even when you're sitting quiet trying to meditate, who still has thoughts come in?
Because that's about the practice. I mean, it's
Yeah.
we're going to be practicing a very long time.
Oh yes, that's why they call it practice, right?
That is why they call it a practice.
And I think as we look at this idea that we are actually addicted to that constant chatter, I have to agree, because when I did a mindfulness program, about 2 or 3 weeks into the program, I literally sat there and was like, I didn't hear it anymore. And it was just in a quiet moment of some journaling. And I noticed, like, I'm alone here. Like, I'm alone here. I'm alone. There's no judge. There's no criticism. There's no running narrative of what I need to be doing instead of just sitting here journaling. And it didn't last long, but it gave me hope that I could create more of that space. Any other insights that you want to share?
I could make. Go ahead. Go ahead, David.
Sorry, Lisa.
Oh.
I was just thinking that there's all these terms, shiny object, look at the squirrel, and being distracted to me falls all into that kind of same deal. And my doctor that I go to for a checkup once a year said to me one day, he's listening to me talk, and he says, I think you were undiagnosed ADHD as a kid. And I don't think you ever really got that handled, and because you're always going 100 miles an hour. And my feeling is, I'm sure there's some cliche out there that relates to this, but I'm not going to stop it. I just have to try to manage it. And one of the things that it's like, I do this. So I did a talk yesterday for a military group, and one of the things I give them is this association value evaluator. Once a year or twice a year, you should look to people in your life that you should either disassociate with, limit your association with, or enhance your association with. So this is the same thing, except that it's maybe once or twice a day. And I ask this question, is this the most important thing you should be working on? Why are you sorting paper clips, for God's sakes? And it's like, well, because they look like they're all messy. And I go, stop. And then I start talking to myself, which is a whole other thing. But I think it's, if you're just aware of it, that's the old line that I've always liked. If you at least admit it, and it's something that I'd much rather be this way than people that I've met a lot of people in my life. What do you think about this? I don't know. I don't really know much of anything. And I think, wow, how different that would be. So if your mind's going and it's distracted, and it is, get the dopamine hit or whatever, I'd rather have that and manage it than not have it at all, because that's what delivers, I'm sure, the 5 of us to better results than maybe a lot of people.
And the dopamine hit and the epinephrine hit are responses, physiological responses to something that matters to our physiology at that time.
Yeah.
Whether or not we want to sit and try and figure it out, if it's not a big deal, if we're like, oh gosh, or not, sometimes it's important to try to figure it out. And sometimes it's like, oh, for God's sakes, like the paper clips. Oh, that offends my sense of orderliness. Those messy things. Yeah.
Well, I will say I'm looking over at my desk over there with a stack of receipts for my accountant, and I'm like, I gotta clean that up today. Right? They just came out of the file folder, and thank God they're all scanned in already. But it's things like that that could have me organizing the pile in like an organized way, and then stapling them together. Is that really a good time spend? Not really.
What I find interesting is right now I'm in the middle of teaching a 6-week mindful eating program. And it's a practice that I have been practicing for several years. What I discover is that when I am in teaching mode, I end up practicing it more. Like I am more in tuned, I'm more attentive. I have a very good, strong standard practice. But when you talk about it and you start to, support other people and create that conversation, it opens up other things where you're like, oh, let me pay further attention to this.
Yeah.
And it's just being more present on whatever it is, when we're talking about mindful eating, it's all about, tuning out the distraction and paying attention to what you're eating in multiple levels. So it's comes in different ways.
Yeah, I found in addition to it being easier to tune out depending on what I'm doing, like I'm always present in the now when I'm in a client session. It's the most reliable way for me to be in the present. I have a client session and I am like just locked in. The other way is when there are time blocks on something. And that helps me stay focused because, if I've got the thing to do and this much time to do it in, the monkeys go away for a while. So finding the different ways to structure the tasks so that the monkeys can go play someplace else while I get the important stuff done. That's the trick is being intentional about how you set it up.
I'm writing that down. I sent the monkeys to go play somewhere else. That's going to be the title of a post, and I'll credit you for that one, Judy.
Okay, cool.
I sent the monkeys off to play. That might be my weekend post. But it's so true. I have a task that I need to do today. And because it's on the calendar, normally I don't put, projects on the calendar, but this is important. I need some copy written for something, and I blocked time to do it. Otherwise, I knew it wouldn't get done. And to try to do something like that requires my full attention while I'm doing other things, that never works out well. And I want to read you guys something about that exact topic. That's a quote from the book that's highlighted. The ability to pay attention, to control the content of your consciousness, is critical to a good life. This explains why perpetual distraction is such a big problem. When you're constantly interrupted by external things, the phone, text, people with a quick question, email, clients, children, or by self-generated interruptions, your own thoughts, your multitasking, juggling more than one thing at a time. The chronic distractions erode your sense of having control of your life. They don't just derail your train of thought, they make you lose yourself.
And I'm thinking about body language. How many times do we go like, get away, get away? Because this is pushing away the distractions, whatever it happens to be. Get away. Leave me, I can't think, and that's the body, the strong body language.
Yeah.
And do that with nobody around, just to the things that are distracting us. And that is, it's taking action in a way, because we're telling what's up here and the phone, and then we might take action and unplug the phone in the old days, or we might, whatever, shut off the radio, get away from me, leave me alone. I got to think, kind of thing. Yeah. So.
Yeah. I wear this little bracelet. I've had numerous ones over the years. It's just a string with a little charm, a little Buddha charm on it. And I wear that all the time, never comes off till it wears off and falls off, to remind me of those thoughts that aren't useful. And that's the phrase I say when I look at the bracelet. It brings me back to what is useful. So if I'm criticizing myself, or being demanding of myself, judgment, self, others, doesn't matter, I just say not useful, Suzanne. And that has been so helpful to have the visual reminder, not only to help me remember to say the words to myself. And I typically do that with clients if they need that reminder to get out of judgment and into, focus. Pick a phrase or something, an anchor to bring you back, like a bracelet or a ring, or, something like that.
I think it's nice to have little sort of ways you can trick yourself into eliminating distractions. And if something comes to mind, I've heard people say they have a family dinner and everybody puts their phones in a basket by the door before they walk in, so they're not all on their phones. And but just anything, I mean, like one day I have a reminder, you're supposed to turn your phone off like every so often to let it reboot, and just totally turn it off and wait a minute or 5 minutes or 10 minutes. And so I do that about once a week. Supposedly it's good for your phone. And I did it. And then like 10 minutes later, I go, what's going on here? Is there something happening? Oh my God, my phone's off. My phone hasn't been on. And I went, Jesus, that's right. I forgot to start it again. And I thought, I guess if you can apply humor to it, I guess that's part of it. I watch TV and I'll have my phone, and while I'm watching TV, I'm still scrolling through the phone, reading the news. Can you not just be stimulated by just one thing on TV? You have to have another thing at the same time. And then once you do some hot tea to get that going, and then read this and then look at that and then look outside. Oh, there's a squirrel. It's like, Jesus, can't you just relax? God.
Well, seriously. I mean, I'm hearing you say it and laughing, but I do the same thing. I'm making dinner and I'm still, closing out my day answering messages to me. Or, I'm sitting watching TV and a commercial happens and I pick up my phone and do something somewhere, right? And I'm like, what is happening? Why? I used to sit there and laugh at the commercials, or, have a conversation with somebody during the commercials. Now we're on electronics during that time,
That's why I think if there's just any tricks somebody has, tips, whatever you want to call them, that you can do. I mean, and it's not all a bad thing. Suzanne, as you know, I walk these 2 hours every day, these 8 miles, and I've read more books on Audible thanks to the fact I was walking. I never would have read if I wasn't doing that. So there's a good thing where technology really helped me, because I just can't sit down and read a book. I just don't have the patience. But boy, walking I'll do. And so any ideas people have, I'm all for it, of different ways to make it so we aren't so distracted.
Yeah. Well, that's a great tip to actually combine your walking time and your entertainment or I know you're reading for personal growth, but even if you're just listening to something for entertainment during that time, that's a great tip to, encourage you to actually go out for a walk and encourage you to read more books at the same time.
I get distracted listening to books. I'm not a
I do
good
too.
audio. And then you get, it's cumbersome to get back to where it's not like just going back a page in a book. It's like you've got to back it up, play it. Nope, don't sound familiar. Back it up. It's like I don't have the patience for the audio versions of anything for that reason. It's just,
and it's so interesting on how we choose to self-motivate to go for a walk, where you look at it as a great opportunity to learn and to do something, where sometimes I can do that, but more often than not, I look at my time for an hour and a half in the woods as being in the woods. Like I'll bring my phone and sometimes I'll think, well, maybe I should call blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, oh, wait a second. I don't really want the noise. I want to hear the birds, the brook, the tiny trickle, because my mind hurts. Sometimes it's just like my brain hurts from all the stuff that I'm doing during the day, and that is the time, and that it's nature and it's nurturing, and I'm with my dog or I'm with my partner, and sometimes we'll chat and sometimes it's really super quiet. It's just so interesting on how we all have such different needs at different times, and not that there's any judgment, it's just so interesting.
Yeah.
I know on my phone, like I don't have any of my sounds on. They're off 24/7 unless I know that I'm expecting a call.
Who else does that? Is your ringer ever on your phone?
I hate it. And it drives me crazy when I'm in a room and somebody's phone is dinging because every time it dings, I'm like a twitch. It drives me nuts. And it's not that I don't look at my phone, but I will purposely turn it upside down if I'm really trying to get something done. But I find that the dinging and the buzzing really makes me crazy. And it makes other people crazy that I don't answer my phone, but I always return my phone calls. So, and just because somebody texts doesn't mean that you have to respond instantly.
Yeah.
I'm very responsive, and it doesn't have to be instantly.
I think that's very true. I think you would probably enjoy the book Digital Minimalism. It talks a lot about doing that when you're with other people, not having your phone even in sight.
Now be better at that.
My phone just lit up when you were talking, and I felt my eyes go there for a second. I didn't read anything, but it lit up because somebody messaged me, right? And I think just that micro distraction, if you're getting one of them on your computer, desktop notification, and then your phone lights up, and then I have 2 monitors now. So what notifications are going to come on that one too? And then somebody knocks at the front door, and then the dog barks, and then I hear my husband upstairs, and you add all of that up in 1 hour.
There's no time to do anything.
Yeah.
I also think it's really important that you set your own rules. I just have things running around my brain because I just did this talk yesterday, and I talk an awful lot about the relationship you have with yourself. And Lisa, you just said something to me that really resonated. It drives my friends crazy. I don't care if it drives you crazy. These are my rules. Why don't you answer your phone? I don't understand why you just go,
My
look,
kids.
I'm living my life the way I want to do it, not to be in tune with yours. And that same type of thing. And I mentioned it again yesterday about if you have a great relationship with yourself, your entire life works better. And that includes letting people know how you run your life. And I hope that works for you. If it doesn't, too bad. That's the way it's gonna
I
be.
mean, and I'm very responsive, but my son will say, well, you never answer your phone. And I say, true. And I always call you back.
Right.
I, I'm looking at everybody here. We all grew up with one phone attached to the wall, and we all managed to survive.
Well, listen, I remember, hey Casey, I remember sitting by the phone, maybe around 15, 16 years old, because this boy was supposed to call me, right?
Oh, yes.
And I sat there for hours, and I don't know what time I gave up, but I literally said to myself, it was one of those moments where you make a decision that's going to like run the rest of your life. And I said, I'm never doing this again. This was stupid.
That's a huge thought for a 15-year-old adolescent girl.
Yeah.
Oh,
Trying to fit in, trying to manage and navigate and understand self-worth and self-value. And you said, screw you. I don't need you to determine my self-worth or anybody else.
oh, I was missing out. Like, I'm sitting in the house
waiting
for the phone.
And then if somebody got on the phone, there was going to be a busy signal.
Mhm.
I mean, like my time frame, we didn't have call waiting yet.
Yeah, me neither.
Right. Yeah.
And sitting there waiting, and all my friends are outside in the neighborhood or doing something, and I'm like, I'm not waiting for a guy to call me. Forget it. Peace out. And that served me very well in later years, for sure. And I think when we really look at just look at that, Lisa, like, I'm thinking, what year was it when I was 15?
How old are you?
I'm 56.
So it was 1978.
78?
No, 75 or 70.
I was
74,
born in
75.
66. So
80.
76, 1980, right?
Yeah, we're the same.
So 1980, just then, there was less, the only opportunities to be distracted when I was out playing or outside or with friends was people or nature or a car driving by or a plane flying overhead. There wasn't a phone in my pocket.
Bring those days back.
I don't know.
Lisa, you mentioned call waiting. I forgot about that. I saw an article in the airplane or in a magazine once where it said, what's the greatest invention of all time? And it was the airplane and internet and computer and cell phone and all these different things. And I thought, no, to me, the greatest invention, because this is going to show my age because I grew up in the 50s, but the greatest invention of all time is caller ID. It's just so great when you could see who it is, and before you'd answer, oh my God, did you answer? I want to talk to Aunt Sally. Oh, geez, David, how are you? And I go, if I just had known it was her, I wouldn't have answered. But I just think, because again, what are we talking about here? How do you manage your world, and how do you not have distractions and all these things that come in? You get to decide, and nobody else, what you allow into that inner circle and when you do it. Just like you said about returning the calls. I think that's great. I also kind of like that too, because it implies you're busy. She's too busy. She doesn't answer her phone. So let him just leave a message. I'll call you back. I always like that too. I think that's a better way to control your own environment.
Well,
Part of
being an entrepreneur, your friends don't understand that you're actually working, that you're not sitting at home like eating bonbons, watching Netflix. Like, no, I do stuff. And I have appointments with people. I'm sorry, I can't answer the phone when you call, right? Text me.
I don't think anybody expects me to pick up the phone when they call.
No.
I have the ringer on if I'm not in a meeting or not, but most of the day it's off because I'm usually online.
Yeah.
Most of the day. But I don't think anybody expects me to return a call. I mean, to pick it up. It's nobody's complained.
That's
I
good.
picked up the phone night before last. I had a client call me, and it was like 7 o'clock at night. She was in California though, so it was the end of her business day. And
Mhm.
she called, and when I answered, she said, "Oh, I thought I was going to get your voicemail."
You astonished
Yeah.
her.
Mm-hmm.
You astonished
Yep.
her.
And if one other thing that I do if I do choose to pick up the phone, is that I will state how much time I have. Because sometimes I do want to talk to somebody, but I only have 5 minutes, because it's a great way to just simply connect. And as an entrepreneur, I think we need that too.
Yeah.
But it's not about, you're not going to call me and know that you're going to get an hour conversation. I will simply say, I have 5 minutes, whether I have a client or not. I will just say, I'd love to talk to you, catch up for 30 seconds. I have 5 minutes. And that's it. And that works really well with boundaries of time.
I love that. I love that. David and I were just talking about that not too long ago, about framing a call. So, framing a call with a client, or framing a call with if you have a 15-minute discovery call, we've all had those where you get on and it's 15 minutes and the other person talks the whole entire time and you're like, oh, what was that for? And so we kind of decided we were going to start framing the call. It came from Charlie Timmons, who originally talked about it here. And by saying, oh, great, we have 15 minutes today. I want to hear about what you do. I want you to hear about what I do. And like taking the lead in those situations, exactly what you were talking about, Lisa. So when my phone rings and it's somebody and I am available to answer it, hey, Bob, great to hear from you. I have a few minutes before my next appointment. So I answered the phone. What's up with you today? And I think it's a polite way to say, I'm happy to talk to you, but let's get to the point.
And it feels safer and non-confrontational when all of a sudden you're like, oh, I gotta go by. Like that feels harsh and disconnected. And
I have a couple clients that like to run over their time. And so I will tell them I have a hard stop at 10 o'clock or 2:30 or whatever. So that they know that, like yesterday, I had a client that wanted to squeeze in a call. Like, yes, I can do that, but I have a hard stop at 3 o'clock. And so at 2 minutes till, she said, oh, Casey has to go in 2 minutes. So this is what I want to end the call with.
Yeah.
Well, my world is a little different because I don't have the kinds of calls that you all are talking about. When I was thinking 10 minutes ago, back into the earlier part of the conversation, I can't shut the phone off because I don't remember to turn it back on again. I'm just not techie in my head. So I don't like, oh, I have to turn it back on. I shut it off once and I went 3 days, maybe 4 days, trying to figure out why I couldn't make a call out, why I wasn't receiving calls. I'm like, I'm texting people, not texting people. I'm emailing people on my laptop. Would you please call me and see if my phone even rings? It's not ringing. Do I have to take it over to AT&T and see what's wrong with it? Do we have to whatever? So so it was so ridiculous. And I ended up talking with somebody outside of the house at some point, and they said, you know what? Maybe you just have to turn it on. Did you shut it off at any point? I'm like, I don't know. I don't remember if I did. And that's what it was. So what I do now, if I need time out from the phone, if I'm going for a hike or if I'm doing my farm, or because when I work on my farm, it's outside too. So I get a lot of my outside stuff going on. I learn, I have a red-tailed hawk who's decided to be my neighbor about 30 feet away from my front door. And I'm loving it. So, but that's a lot of my outdoors thing. So I just leave the phone in the house.
That's wonderful.
Unless I'm trying to remember, Suzanne, to take some pictures for Instagram, but that's a whole nother.
That's why it's been hard for you to remember to document what you do with pictures, because you're not used to carrying the phone with you. And I can say the exact same thing. I don't take a walk with my dog and take the phone until my husband said a couple months ago, he's like, you should take the phone with you. What if somebody tries to, kidnap you, or the dog gets hurt? And I was like, oh,
Well, I
I
always
never
say to
thought
some
about stuff like that happening.
people are telling me, well, you need to take the phone out with you in case you have an accident when you're doing your chores. And I'm like, what's the remote possibility of that ever happening? And it doesn't happen. Well, I have fallen, but I got up, kind of a thing, but it's not I understand their concern and I'm happy for their concern. It's nice. But at the same time, my sister is a texter. If a text goes on for more than 3 exchanges, I'm like, let's get on the phone because we can really finish this up a lot quicker. If it's just, a factual kind of a change of information, quickie thing.
Yeah.
And other times my catch-up calls, Lisa, are not 5 minutes. If I haven't talked to somebody for 3 or 4 weeks, I call people but all of my friends are people who love to have conversations on the phone. So I can go an hour or so, but my wonderful cousin's wife, Tara, who we can do that. Gosh almighty, we went 2 hours one time. Where did the time go? We didn't even know it was passing. We loved our conversation, but I did have to say, Tara, I got half an hour because I have to the sun is setting and I have to go out and do this before the sun sets on the farm. She says, oh, sure. All right. No problem. I get it, and
and that goes back to the framing thing, the framing of, whether it's a social call or whether it's a business call, or, whether it's a call like this. You guys know that there's a frame on this call. My goal to finish up, 3 minutes early now, which I'm loving. Every meeting finishes 3 minutes early. And then if people want to hang around and,
You mentioned something, you're talking about, like the phone and outside and Instagram. And one of the biggest challenges that I have is that, I do a lot of hiking. We're very active, and my daughter, who helps me with do a lot of stuff, she's like, take pictures, take pictures, take pictures. I have a really hard time doing that because when I am outside doing those things, my goal is to separate out from that stuff.
Yes.
Like, how do you, it's like, I don't know what the balance is, because if I'm doing that, I'm purposely checking out of this.
Yes.
And I'm very full disclosure. Like, I'm happy to share, parts of my life, but who cares? It's, there's that internal voice that says, like, who really cares that I'm going out for a walk and it's beautiful with my dog? And then there's the other part that people like to see your story. But it's my life.
Yeah.
It's my story.
My husband says that about people that take pictures of their food, like take pictures of their plate.
It's
I don't care what you ate for supper.
And I'm a health and wellness coach, and it's very complicated as to, and I hear you 100%. Like, I show pictures based on like the whole gamut. And it's like, because I don't, like, who cares what I'm eating? But people apparently
how about stock photos? Have you ever,
then I'm like, it doesn't represent me. It's like a vicious circle.
When I was health coaching, I had it's called Wellness Stock Shop. It's a wellness photo membership.
It's called Wellness
Stock Shop. And she used to be a wellness coach or holistic something, and she's a photographer, and she started selling her photos. And the way the membership works, it's really cool. You can get unlimited for a certain price, and then you can buy packages of photos that are all like one theme and one color, like one brand kind of thing. And you buy them and you have rights to you. They're beautiful too.
I will have to check it out, because I mean, we're always looking at stuff, but there's the difference between that and this.
Yeah.
And it's just,
I struggle with that because I don't ever take my own picture. And so to post myself, I have, like, I've done a couple photo shoots where I have, 6, 8 photos from the shoot, or 20 or whatever it was that I bought. But I feel like I use the same ones all the time.
And I think we're only the ones that are sick of the ones that we see all the time. Nobody else notices because they don't see our stuff all the time.
Lisa, I
That's
think it
probably
might be-
true.
Lisa, I think it might be as simple as just setting the intention for when you go do your normal walks. And I can picture that in the forest and the dog and all that kind of thing. But then this walk I'm going to do this afternoon, I'm going to take some pictures, and that's going to be business. And for some reason, it reminds me of there's office hours and there's personal hours. And so office hours, you go take the pictures, and personal hours is just you and the dog and nature and not making the phone calls and so on. And for some reason, it just reminds me, my older brother once ran into some famous people in Los Angeles or somewhere, and he goes, they were so different. They're not like they were on TV. Of course they weren't, you idiot. They're actors. When they're on TV, they're going to be a totally different person. They go, oh, they were so different. They hardly said anything. And I just went, God.
Oh, yeah.
So there's a time for the professional and there's a time for the personal. Maybe it's just allocating that time might help.
I think that's, I mean, I just said that to somebody this morning that, you know, Coach Suzanne is here. And then, well, I didn't want to raise my hand. Don't do that. Coach Suzanne is here. And then, you know, personal Suzanne is here. They're the same person. They have the same morals, the same values. If you met me at Starbucks, total stranger standing in front of me in line, I'm going to be the same, you know, personality. But there's things I like to do that are just for me. And I don't want to take pictures. If I'm at a workshop for me, do you think I'm going to document that and share it on social media? No.
I feel the same way.
Not doing it.
It's like I did a talk the other day, and you know, somebody's like, well, why didn't you take a picture? I'm like, it's just not,
Yeah.
I don't have the energy. I don't have the
No,
energy.
Lisa, I
do.
think that's the same person that says, why don't you answer your phone? I think those people are all out there.
I just,
But I
was the
do
biggest holdout.
secretly love if I'm at an event, or I remember speaking at a conference right before the pandemic. It was literally the weekend before we got locked down the first time. And it was an all-day speaking thing. I was the MC of this big wellness event. And so I was on and off stage all day. And people took pictures and sent them to me. And I was like, this is wonderful. This is so wonderful, because I didn't think about it all day long. And other people did. I'm fine with that. I don't want to go to an event and have to remember. I don't even remember to pull out my camera on vacation.
I don't want to orchestrate it. I don't want to do it. I don't want it planned. I just want to be, I just want to be in that moment.
Yeah.
Like, that is my purpose. That is my focus, is to serve who I am there for. And it just feels very cumbersome and one more thing to do.
Well, I think
I saw somewhere where it was on a checklist, I think, that was, you need to, if you're doing a speaking something, you need to hire a person to show up to do that, to take pictures or to take video, or when you're doing things like that, because you're right, it does take away from your focus. If you're, oh, I need to take a picture, well, I need to remember to take a picture while I'm here. My husband just this morning said, when we go to Menards tonight, we need to remember to get a scraper. Am I going to remember to get a scraper at Menards tonight? No, I will not. But he said it like he thought I was going to. But it's the same with taking pictures when you go somewhere. I don't remember to do that. No, I did take a picture of my grandson the other night, just because my husband said, you need to take a picture of this.
You need to post that too.
My husband was watching a sprint race, a race car race with my grandson.
Aww.
So he
How old
said,
is your grandson?
He was born a week ago yesterday.
Wow.
Oh, congratulations.
Congratulations,
Thank you.
Grandma.
Thanks.
See, that's a good distraction.
Yeah.
It was I posted that on LinkedIn. That was my distraction.
That's a
the
good
last couple weeks.
distraction.
That's where I've been the last
So
couple
we can
weeks.
qualify. Now we're all of a sudden we're qualifying distractions.
See how we're addicted to them?
So what is, I'm curious, what is an okay distraction? What is a good distraction? What is, what determines if something is good or bad?
Oh, when a
Well, I have-
notification pops up that somebody just paid you.
Oh, that's a good distraction. But how do you allow those but not allow the others? I don't
can't.
think there's a way to do that. You get all or none. I always have shut my phone off at night, like not shut it off, turn the ringer off. In fact, my ringer is off most of the time because it's off during the workday, and then it's off when I go to bed because I have clients across multiple time zones. And so if somebody sends me a text message or an email, I don't want that to come in. It doesn't wake me up, but it does wake my husband up. And so I have been shutting it off. Well, over the last week, my daughter has called me a couple times at odd times. And so I've left that ringer on because in case she needed something, she could call me in the middle of the night or whatever.
But you can also do your phone where that only certain people get through.
I have to figure out that to do that.
Yes,
I
that's
don't know how to
that's
do that.
above my grade levels.
Yeah,
but
I know.
it can
I
be
know
done.
My
it's
son
an
could do that.
option, but I don't know how to do
My
it.
son could do
So,
that.
yeah. So, but I have left it on for so there have been a few distractions come through because I hear it ding and then I'm like, oh, I wonder what I got. So I usually, because it doesn't ding all day because I actually don't know what all the dings mean because, you get a different ding for a text or ring or.
I started leaving my phone in my office when I was done work. To see how that would go, like not having my phone out in the house with me. Some days it works, some days it doesn't. Let's jump to our next topic is task switching. And we're going to do a little activity that's I dare you to try this with some of your clients. It's really, really cool. And it just mimics well, I'm not going to tell you what it mimics, but let's do the experiment. So take your watch or the stopwatch on your phone. Stopwatch. And I want you to say the ABCs to yourself and see how long it takes you. How long?
9.68.
Okay.
7.6.
Okay.
8.33.
Okay. All right. Now we're going to say that we're going to count 1 to 10 and do the same thing. Or did it say 1 to 10? Hold on.
Are we supposed to do it in our normal pace or
Yeah.
hurry up and get it done as fast as possible?
No, whatever. Doesn't matter.
Okay.
So 1 to 10. Okay, I got 3.95 seconds.
4 seconds.
4.1.
2.8.
Now
4.1.
reset. And I want you to count and number A1, B2, C3, D4, and so on until you get through the whole 26 letters of the alphabet. And let's see how long it takes. Go.
I'm not doing that. I can't keep track of where I am.
Okay, wherever you're at, you can stop. That shows you the difference between single task and trying to switch between two different tasks. So the time difference, it took me over 30 seconds to get that done, where the others were 5 seconds, 6 seconds. So task switching actually prolongs how long something takes you. So how many times have we been checking email and ended up online, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, or on YouTube watching something that somebody sent? Instead
This came
of
up in one of my one of my groups that I belong to, kind of like this, but it's for accounting. And so I said, I am deleting Facebook off my phone. And so I only put it on the weekends. And I delete the app off my phone during the week, because I would catch myself, even after I deleted it, middle of the afternoon, I don't really want to do what I have on my calendar to do. And so I would be on Facebook.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so many times I get emails that push me to somebody's social media, push me. And like, so David does this email where he shares a YouTube video. I love watching them. I want to watch them, but not while I'm checking email. So I skip, instead of clicking, I skip to the next email and let's get my email done before I go watch David's video. That's the kind of stuff I mean, because so many times I'll go to do my post on LinkedIn, and as soon as I open LinkedIn, I see something I want to read, and then I see that I have 7 messages, and I'm like, no, I'm here to do the post. Don't go down that rabbit hole. You're going to forget that you want to write, I sent the monkeys off to play.
It's interesting. Like this morning, I was writing my email that I send out every Monday, and then I turn it into a blog. And my email, also in my email, I put like my dates for my free office hours and for my upcoming events. And I was like, oh, I just figured out, I have a new event coming up. And all of a sudden I'm like, now on Eventbrite, now I'm updating all my stuff in Squarespace. And then I was like, okay, if I'm already in Squarespace, I might as well go back and, I might as well do all my updating. So I'm not back and forth. But then it took me an hour to get back to my original email.
Yep.
And it was like, okay, what is the most productive way to do this?
Time blocking.
But I have an answer. What'd you say, Casey?
Time blocking.
But it was like one rabbit hole led to another rabbit hole that led to another rabbit hole.
Well, that happens a lot with, what we're doing
with tech.
Technology pieces will take you away from what you're doing. So when you post an event, much like when I post an event, I post it on LinkedIn, I post it on my community, I post it on my website, send out an email to all of my people to get, those people invited or into the community. And it's like this, my God, it's like daunting when you design a new event, because then you need a cover image, you need the time blocked out, you need the Zoom link. Is it going to be Zoom registered? Like, oh my God.
Yeah. So I'm curious, speaking of, like sharing events within this community, how does that work? What is acceptable? What are the boundaries? What is that about?
Well, I encourage people to share their events in the announcements thread. Totally fair game to share your events. I draw the line at spammy sales posts. By all means, make offers, but you know the difference, right?
Yeah.
And if I see, like, even with the experts, they're doing one event per month. If they start sharing too many, it's going to be too many on the calendar, right? And you will all end up with less people to our events until the group grows a little bit more. If you would like to partner with me to do an event, then we would post it on the event tab, and that would go out to the whole community. And we could talk about that some other time. But anytime you want to post an event or content goes in the daily feed, think of that as a Facebook group where you can post and add value. And then any events, or, you know, maybe you're having a webinar or something like that, goes in the announcements section.
Okay, great.
Do you have that documented somewhere?
But I'll go over it again with you if you want.
That's okay.
Yeah,
I wrote it down.
It's all under documents, under housekeeping. So if you go to documents on the outside menu, housekeeping on the inner menu, there's all kinds of how-tos. And then if you're an expert and you scroll down, there's a whole list for experts. But I'm not going to get mad if you do it wrong. So don't stress about it.
Just if we all are consistent, it makes it easier for somebody else. It's like, how does this work? You can go find it. But if everybody does it their own way, then it's really confusing to all of us.
Yeah. Yeah.
Trying to do things properly without having to beg for forgiveness, which can often happen.
Yeah, it can. Yeah.
The best of intentions.
It can. Well, this was great today, everyone. Thanks for being here. Make sure you download the notes and read the whole thing about task switching, and it's a really good book. And the other book that I mentioned, Digital Minimalism, I can share the notes on that one as well if you're interested.
And how often does